Tucker Carlson has now, I would say, a track record, a pretty good track record in recent times of going to the interview and doing the interview that everyone else says, oh, why are you doing that? That's not okay. How dare you engage with our adversary? It happened with Putin. It was, no, you can't talk to the guy that we're in a war with. Really? Is that the case? So he anticipated that when he signed up for this. He locked in this interview. This is an interview with the president of Iran, and he got pushed back even before he released the interview. But Tucker knew he was going to get that pushback, so he put this out first. And I think this is important because he is showing us what journalism should be about. And again, you can actually have your disagreements and critique of Tucker in the new space he's in, which I think everybody should be critiqued. Nobody gets a free pass. But if this isn't a reason enough to be like, you know what, yay for journalism, when he discusses why this interview is so important. And I'll also add this. He's been trying to sit down with Netanyahu for a long time, and Netanyahu won't do it. So that I just want to put that out there for anybody who thought he was a one-sider type of guy. No. Tucker wants the interviews. That's the thing. He knows it's ratings, number one. And number two, no one else is doing it. He's the only one going out there and saying, let's do this. When the mainstream is saying, no, we don't engage with our enemies. Okay, Tucker, explain to us why this is so important.
Let's finish up an interview with Masoud Pezeshkian, who is the president of Iran, the 70-year-old heart surgeon who leads the country we were just at war with about a week and a half ago. We know we'll be criticized for doing this interview. Why did we do it anyway? Well, we did it because we were just at war with Iran 10 days ago and maybe again. And so our view, which has remained consistent over time, is that American citizens have the constitutional right and the God-given right to all the information they can gather about matters that affect them. If their country is doing something with their money in their name, they have a right, an absolute right, to know as much about it as they can. And that would include hearing from the people they're fighting. Now, can you believe everything you hear from the president of Iran? Probably not. But that's not the point. The point is you should be able to decide for yourself whether you believe it or not. And keep in mind that anyone who seeks to deny you that right is not your ally, but your enemy. By the way, we have also put in for the third time in the last several months an interview request with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and we hope he accepts that. The interview is limited by a couple of factors. One, it was done by remote through a translator. That's always awkward. For another, I don't speak Persian, and there are all kinds of questions that I didn't ask the president of Iran, particularly questions to which I knew I could not get an honest answer, such as, was your nuclear program totally disabled by the bombing campaign by the U.S. government a week and a half ago? There's no chance he's going to answer that question honestly. I didn't bother to ask it. The answer, in fact, from an American perspective, even from the CIA's perspective, is unknowable. So we dispense with those, and I asked him very simple questions, such as, what is your goal? Do you seek war with the United States? Do you seek war with Israel? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, the purpose of this was not to get to the absolute truth. That's impossible in an interview like this. The purpose of the interview was to add to the corpus of knowledge from which Americans can derive their own opinion. Learn everything you can, and then you decide. That's the promise of America. And we hope that this interview does a small part to making that promise real.
Well said, Tucker. And he got the pushback even before he even released any of the interview. We already had people saying this because he said our interview with the president of Iran. Okay, this is where it's going to debut. And of course, this guy Ian right above him, Ian Hayworth, says, was Satan unavailable? And Mel chimes in and says, Tucker said he submitted 3 separate requests to speak to Netanyahu. They've all gone unanswered. So to answer your question, yes, Satan was unavailable. But of course, that's the point is Tucker's being smeared for apparently engaging with Satan. But we appreciate here that he did check every box here. He's not saying, obviously, the person you're sitting down with isn't going to 100% tell you the truth, but that's not the point. That's not the point. And by the way, same thing happened with Putin. all of a sudden we memory holded the fact that nobody ever interviewed Putin before. Oh no, everybody interviewed Putin before Tucker. It's just there came the time when you were not allowed to do it anymore. And so that's the part we forget because we don't go back long enough. So somebody put this together to show you that the Iranian president has in fact been interviewed several times by let's see. Oh, there's George Stephanopoulos up there in the left. You got Larry King. Oh, look at that. Is that Pierce Morgan? And I believe the last one is Diane Sawyer. Wow, imagine that. Interviews from the same guy. But when Tucker did it, it wasn't allowed, or it wasn't, you weren't allowed to, because we were in this 12-day war, apparently, where you're not allowed to, again, like they say with Putin, you're not allowed to engage with your biggest adversary or quote unquote, evil nemesis. No, we don't do that. And our previous President Biden told us that we don't do that, that America we don't engage with our enemies. So if you had a job of diplomacy anywhere in the government, you should be fired now, because your job shouldn't exist, because America doesn't do diplomacy. We don't engage with people that we don't like. But again, good thing Tucker did do this. Now we're not going to go through the whole thing. I guess the thing ended up being about a half hour or so, just under a half hour. And I just want to just maybe check out one or two of these sections that he highlighted here for us. I think an important one, I think, is has 11:55 mark. We're going to bring this one up. Has the Israeli government tried to assassinate the Iranian president? Let's see.
Do you believe the Israeli government tried to assassinate you?
They did try, yes. And they acted accordingly, but they failed. And as a true believer, I believe that it is in the hands of the God Almighty to determine when a person will die or will not die. If he wills, the God Almighty wills, then you can die when you are walking freely in the streets. And but I would like to tell you that I am not afraid of sacrificing myself for in defense of my country, and in safeguarding and defending the sovereignty, the freedom and the independence of my country. I'm willing to give my life, to give blood for that. And nobody here, I mean, none of the government officials is afraid of losing their lives in line of defense.
Okay. That was, I think, a very important clip. As Tucker said originally, we're not necessarily taking everything he says at 100% truth, but we kind of already knew this. We kind of already knew Israel, heads in Israel already have bragged about the fact that they tried to murder this guy. The ones they did pull off, though, we do know that they did manage to murder the 4 negotiators that were supposed to be sitting down with Trump before this 12-day war started. So they do tend to brag about what they do out in the open. So we already know this. Back to the Tucker pushback on the interview. Again, we're very happy that he did the interview. It seems like it was a little challenging with the language barrier. Let's see if there's one more thing I think I wanted to grab from this interview. Let's see here if I can go back to here. Yeah, so there's one more part I wanted to highlight here from again, it's a half hour. You guys can watch the whole thing if you go to Tucker's site. He has it's available here. It's like 28 minutes, 29 minutes. But the part I also thought that was important is are there Iranian sleeper cells in the U.S.? Now, you guys know that we've been covering this story for the last several weeks, the last month, really, on the sleeper cell situation. Where are we getting a kind of a situation of a setup where we're going to be told that Iran has sleeper cells here when it's really maybe coming from somewhere else? I don't know. Maybe our greatest ally of all time, the greatest democracy in the Middle East, perhaps. But let's see what the Iranian president says about possible sleeper cells and where they're actually coming from?
There are some large number of Iranian nationals living in the United States. Some have said they are, quote, sleeper cells. They are terrorists who are acting at the command of your government. Would you right now make a statement to Iranian citizens living in the United States not to commit acts of violence in the United States?
You see, these things you're telling me, this is the first time I'm hearing them from you or from anybody. The Iranians are known for their knowledge, for their science, for their courtesy, for being civilized. Have you seen otherwise from them? Any other kind of behavior from them, or any violent behavior? Has anybody ever seen anything from them? Yeah, as I said, this is what Israel is trying to put into your minds. They are propagating that Iranians might be capable of doing such a thing, but this is totally untrue, because by nature Iranians are pro peace and tranquility, and they're trying to actually make to somehow impact the minds of the decision makers and the people of the United States, and to scare them into getting involved in a war in my region that is not going to ensure any kind of interest for the United States. It is not to be in the interest of the United States to be involved in any kind of war in my region.
So what the Iranian president just did, he just explained to us how manufacturing consent for fake wars work. He literally broke it down. Now, look, Tucker had to ask that question. I think he had to ask that question. He had to check a box off his list. It says, see, I challenged him. I think Tucker knows deep down that there are no sleeper cells from Iran in our country, but putting the question out there on the record, it's probably important to do, because if you heard the reaction, now again, there's the language barrier, so you got the translator. When you heard the translator kind of laughing, he was almost, I would think, emulating the sentiment of the Iranian president, how he responded. He said, it's actually the reverse. Not only do we not have anything in your country, it goes against everything that we believe in, everything that we're about. Look at our track record. We have absolutely no history of this. And then, of course, he mentioned, not of course, actually, I was pleasantly surprised and pleasantly happy to hear him bring up Israel in the answer. He didn't just say, no, we don't do that. It's not what we're about. He says, Israel is out to make you think this. That's what their game is. And they actually have a track record. And if he'd spent a little more time on that, which maybe it's good he didn't, he just let us know this is something that Israel does, or at least is doing in this case. But we know there's a history of Israel doing this. It's a setup, false flag stuff. You guys know we spent a long time on the false flag operations that possibly could have gone down over this past weekend. Thank God nothing did. But these are always in the works. They're always in motion, how they can pin something on somebody else. But the manufacturing of consent is something they've been doing with us since 9/11, well, way before 9/11, but let's just say in the era of the war on terror, we got to get them over there so we don't have to get them over here. And you're either with us or you're against us. That's the old Bush, George W. mantra that's derived directly from Israel. The idea that we have to create fear of Muslims, create fear of Islam, and go punish them before they punish us. But yet there is no history of them ever attacking us. And if you guys still think that 19 hijackers did the thing with box cutters that day, and randomly building 7 fell over, and there's this big fat hole in the Pentagon, there's no holes for the wings, and the list is so long. If you guys still believe that, I don't know what to tell you. But what we do know is that Netanyahu, Israel has been baiting us into war across the Middle East, 7 countries in 5 years. We've known this the whole time. And I like the fact that in this question, Tucker asks him straight up, are you doing this to us? He says, not only are we not doing it to you, Israel wants you to think that we are, but we don't do that. We're not like that. And I think that it's our job now, and Candace Owens talks about this, it's our job now to re-educate ourselves, get that racist crap out of our heads about how bad Muslims are, how bad, even atheists like Bill Maher will tell you, well, all religion sucks, but they're extra worse than us. My Christianity might be bad, but man, they're 10 times. That stuff has to go. We're done with that. We appreciate Tucker having this interview, and we hope that level of journalism maintains itself. And for anybody, again, who thinks that during wartime, especially during wartime, that's the time we don't engage with our enemies. You're wired backwards. That's exactly when we need diplomacy. So if you think Iran is sitting here and they're trying to take us out, if you really believe that, then you should want Tucker Carlson to sit down and speak with the president of the country that you think is trying to destroy us, because they hate us for our freedom. And they chant death to America all the time. So anyways, that's why conversations are important. So kudos to Tucker for having the interview. And of course, we know we're not done with this story in Iran and Israel, and we'll stay on it with you guys moving forward.